Johannes, good to see you. Let's sort of start with an injury update. Are we in a sort of similar situation with the squad as we know it's early in the week, but as we were sort of before the West Brom game?
Yeah, I think it's the same. I think everyone from the game available, and not really any others coming back to the squad. So I think it's probably the same.
Lucy Mova, I think you hopefully at least come back into training. It's a bit longer.
Yeah,
we're still waiting on that.
Yeah, we're still waiting on that. So I don't think any training for him this week. It could potentially be Sunday maybe, but as a lead into the next week for us. But that for him is, unfortunately a little bit different week with a game on Tuesday night. So I need some more trainings for him to be ready. So let's see. But could potentially be something we do Sunday. But start next week.
Even if that is the case, are we looking sort of post-Easter for him now? Because of, as you say, building him back?
Yeah, we have to wait and see. It's not the best week for him, the week we step into now with so many games. So we have to find our moments to see how we can get him up to speed and how we can build his fitness. Because that's what it's mostly about now. That's to make sure that he's fully ready to step in and compete and perform. So that's the thing that we have to be aware of.
Anti-Sinats, he went off on Saturday. That was a bit of a dead leg, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that's all fine.
He's been fine and he's been in training the whole week. But I think it was a knee to his knee, or just a little bit above his knee, and it was painful for him. And we could just see in halftime that it was just about a matter of time before we needed to take him off. So that was the reason with him. And also with Nacho starting on the bench was also just a matter of being 100% sure that we don't do anything a little bit too early or a little bit too soon with him, but make sure that he's fully ready. So he's also in a better place for this game than he was Saturday.
Liam Gibbs, I know you said he obviously returned to training,
yeah,
and that was all positive. Is he still on that sort of time scale? Is he sort of gone back into training, reacted?
Yeah. He's with the group and he's training with us, and he's been all week, and he was also last week. So that's the same. It's just a matter of building fitness and some game minutes into him. So we try to find some 21 games for him. It could potentially be next week, so we can give him some minutes because we also, with him and his history and his injury history, especially the last 2 years, 1 year, 2 years, we have to be careful.
And I guess that's the case of Forson as well. He got some minutes on Monday night. That was just about reintroducing him back into sort of the intensity of playing a game. Exactly,
and that could potentially also be the same with Lucian when we talk about that's a way in for him, because we cannot train with that much intensity in a week where there's a game Tuesday night and then again Friday. So the 21 games is a good opportunity for them to get some minutes.
And I mean, on Forson, it must have been really frustrating for him, because he had that against Coventry and the euphoria and the hype. It felt like he had a bit of momentum maybe for the first time in a little while, and then that injury's kept him out. So I can imagine it's been quite a frustrating period for him.
It is and has been for a while, obviously. Nothing really that he could do about it, but especially because what seemed to be, more or less just a dead leg, and us and him talking a couple of days being out and then back into the team turned out to be 9 or 10 weeks instead. So that's also a part of the frustration and where it comes from. So for him especially, it's frustrating, because he came from a good performance and especially the late win against Coventry, but also against Brighton, where I think he had a good start to the game. He hit the post again from a similar shooting position. So there was many good things in his game. So. With all the other players, when they're injured, we try not to put too much pressure on them and talk too much about how they should perform when they're back. It's just about coming back and being fit again, and then we will slowly start to build him again, because now we have seen what he can do. So definitely he can do that again. It's just a matter of time.
With Matej Jurasek, obviously still in that process of building up. We saw him back in the matchday squad. I think. Can you sort of clarify what building him up kind of means? Because I think there'll be a lot of fans who think, well, if he surely playing games is the way to build him up. So are we talking sort of gym work? Are we talking fitness generally? What sort of route have you gone down?
Fitness, and then for his body to be used to the intensity in the league. And we could see that it was probably a little bit too soon. We started with him in Hull, because he had of course a small injury based on that game, but also just some fatigue in his body based on that game and also the following weeks. So we can see it is a very intense league, and for players coming from other leagues and not being used to that kind of physicality and intensity, then it can take a little bit longer for them to be ready. So we're talking mostly about his body to get used to the physicality, both in training but especially games, and also the intensity in the games. And he's ready now. Of course, not for 90 minutes. We could have put him on pitch on Saturday, but decided not to because the game was not for him in that moment, and we could have used him for 10 to 15 minutes, and that will obviously be more on Saturday.
So that process is about sort of training and getting him up to intensity that way. So I know there's a winter break as well from where he's come from. So is that another factor that's sort of gone into that?
Yeah, and it's a factor that he hasn't played too many games the last 3, 4, 5 months probably. That is also a big factor because it's different. You can train up to a certain level, but the last 10-15% you need from game time and game experience is just different. You cannot train up to that level what a game will give you. So that's again finding the balance, trade as hard as possible, consistently, and then of course find the moments for him to have some game time.
You obviously mentioned Omohovo, obviously still no Callum Doyle. You might have answered this, but is it the case that he's sort of staying around here in terms of Callum Doyle? Yeah. So not sort of going back up to Manchester.
No, he's here, and he's in every morning and a part of all the meetings, and he was training with the performance guys out there today, just individual, to see if we can get him back and ready and fit for the last part of the season. We still have an ambition that it could potentially be the last 2-3 games, so that's what we're pushing towards, and he's a big part of that because he wants to play and he wants to be ready for the last part of the season, so that's a big part of why he's still here.
With him, and obviously we have this conversation with Lewis as well, but clearly where people are at, they'll begin to look at next season and begin to think about next season. He's had a lot of loans at this level. Is he one that you, in an ideal world, would like to come back? Do you think there's any sort of realistic prospect of him coming back? Because clearly a top club like Manchester City, it can be quite difficult. What their plans are as well.
I think there's a price tag that is probably a little bit too difficult for us.
So you think it would be the case that he'd be looking for something probably permanent rather than to go out on loan again?
I hope, without being his agent or supervisor or anything like that, but I hope that his next step is a club where he will be for 2, 3, 4 years. I don't think it's ideal for a young player to change club every season, to go to now he's tried to be clever about his decisions, try to find clubs where they're a little bit similar in the way they play the game, so it's not too different, but it's never ideal to go from club to club to club to club every summer and find a new environment and new teammates, and everything is brand new every summer. So I hope for him that he can find a club where it's 3-4 years. If the price tag was realistic for us, then I hope that it will be here.
Could you see that being a Premier League club? Do you think he's at that stage now where he's played, I think, over 100 games at this level, that he could take that step?
It's a good question. I think physically he needs to improve still a bit, especially his defensive game, especially when he's defending 1v1. On the ball, he would 100% play Premier League.
Let's sort of reflect on West Brom then, because I'm sure you've done a lot of reflection into it. Clearly, as you said, you documented why you went in that change of direction. I think it was the lowest possession you've had since you've been here. So in the end, the result justified that method. How do you sort of reflect on it? Because I think we could tell post-match that's clearly something that in an ideal world you wouldn't like to do.
No, and I think again, when you try to do something new or a different way of playing, then you also have to accept as a coach, but also a player, that sometimes you need to take I'll not call it a step back, but you have to be able to be a little bit more pragmatic in some situations, especially different parts of the season. So that was the case behind the approach on that game. And then of course, obviously also because we knew that we have to play a left back that is a little bit out of position, or at least not his favorite position, and we knew that West Brom especially have some good players offensively, have some good dribblers, to see if we can have a little bit more protection in those areas. So we were not having the same problems as we had in the away game in West Brom, where we conceded too many crosses and too many situations in our own box because of that. So that was one of the reasons, but also that we simply needed to have a game where it was a clean sheet and it was not us conceding too many chances, and just to have that experience and being a little bit more compact in our team. And then hopefully next step for us is now to bring parts from that game to our, I would say, normal way of playing, because that is the step we have been talking so much about, but we need also some experience in exactly how to do it before we can start about talking too much about it.
And obviously we've spoken about the left backs that are missing, Ben Presene as well, so Is that something that you could see yourself persevering with, that sort of three at the back for that reason, or do you think in certain games there will be the opportunity to go back to a 4?
Yeah, I think we will see that we will probably change it a little bit from game to game, and we will probably look at what kind of strikers, wingers that the opposition they play with. What is their structure? What is their way of creating chances, and what is their threats? So we have to be aware of that, obviously. So there can potentially be more changes for us in that position. Do we change the formation? You know, when it comes down to that, we have defended in a 5 before this season. We have built it up with 3 centre backs also more times in this season. So of course we can do that. We try to find out what's best for that game and what suits the players that are available for that game the best possible way. So that's the task we have.
And obviously a key part of Saturday was Angus Gunn. That save at the end, there was a save in the first half as well that helped you. Was that a performance that you felt he needed? I think for certain reasons it's probably not been the season that he would have liked. There's been injury and inconsistency and probably a bit of uncertainty as well. Do you get the sense that was the type of performance he needed just to sort of inject some confidence back in?
I think it was good for him in many ways, and it was good for the defensive line in many ways. That I think we've been punished hard in many games for conceding a couple of chances, and then those chances turned out to goals. So in all the games we play, and that will be the same on Saturday, we need that little quality from the goalkeeper once in a while, where he makes a save where that could potentially have been a goal instead. So that was good to see. Good to see Gunny doing that, especially the one in first half, the header, and then of course the big chance at the end, also the header. Great to see, because that was the 2 moments in the game where we really needed him, and he was there, and that's also what quality is about, and the same with Josh Sargent at the other end. When you really need your top players, then they show up.
And with him in particular, do you think the uncertainty around the contract, because obviously you've been asked about it, he's been asked about it, I'm sure it doesn't help having that noise around you?
No, I try to talk with him about the situation. You know, obviously I will not be the one who puts a contract on the table or do the opposite, but I'm the one who can make sure that he focuses on his performances here, and also making sure that a contract discussion or situation is not something that is just ongoing for a whole season. You need to pick your moments to say, okay, now we keep it aside, now we just purely focus on performance and training and playing games, and then we select the date for when we sit down and take a decision and have that discussion. And that is, I will say, not for now, because now we step into such a busy schedule, and then there will be some ongoing stuff, probably not for Gunny, not for me, but agents and Ben, and they will find a solution.
And in terms of goalkeepers more generally, you said there this season it's felt like you haven't needed to concede a lot of chances to concede goals. There's been sort of a lot of people who've looked into goalkeeping numbers and all that type of thing. So what do you sort of attribute that to, that sort of disparity between what's been overall some probably better defensive numbers than your performances showed, but also the goals conceded, which obviously have been very real? Yeah,
so I'm not satisfied when I look at the numbers that tells us that we are probably defensively the 10th, 11th best team in the league, but we have conceded much more goals than that, and we have conceded when we do our analysis, we have conceded 9 to 10 goals more than we actually should based on the stats. So that's not good enough, but I'm not the kind of coach that will just look and say, okay, that's because of the goalkeeper, because there can be many other reasons for that. So the data is just there to tell us, okay, that's the facts, that was what happened. Then we have to be good enough to look into, okay, what is it exactly that happened? So is it a certain kind of chances that we allow too much, that we find it difficult to deal with? Do we open some spaces defensively that we find it difficult to deal with? All those situations we have to analyze, and that was also a part of the approach to the West Brom game, that we could see, okay, there are moments defensively where we can be vulnerable, and we have to avoid that, and we have to make sure that Saturday was not another one of those games where we actually thought, okay, performance was quite good, we created a lot of good chances, we should have scored 4 goals, but we lost 2-1. I would have been quite tired about it and frustrated about the situation if that had been the post-match interview after the Saturday game.
Just one more then before you sort of look ahead to Plymouth. Jakob Sorensen, and you know you've had plenty of questions around him as well. From a fan's perspective, I think there's been a lot of conversation about, obviously he's played a lot of games, there's a contract situation with him as well that people look at, and maybe they look at him playing as centre back or in midfield, and then they see Jacob Wright or they see Rory McConville, and they wonder would it be better playing these guys with a view to the longer term, or sticking with maybe a player who potentially may or may not be here next season? So as a coach, I'm guessing that doesn't go through your mind. You have to take every player as if they're here for the next 5 years. Yeah. But can you talk a little bit in terms of sort of your decision to play him maybe as much as you had, and what's gone into that?
Obviously, there's a culture, and there's environment, and there's a group of players we have to be protective about, and we have to take the right decisions as coaches, and eventually me taking that decision where I need to be able to look myself in the mirror and say, okay, I took that decision based on some facts and some knowledge and some experience, but also pure performance level and level in training and stuff like that. And to be able to do that, I try to leave aside the contract situation, because we have sat down with him and extended his contract. He sat down with us and extended the contract. So who are we to tell him 2 months before the contract expires that now you're not playing anymore? It's a deal that we made together. So of course, if he's performing as we want, and if he's doing what we tell him to do, and he's doing that on an okay level, then of course he will be playing. No matter if his contract is running out in 1 month or 1 week or 1 day. Then of course there can be moments still where it can be something you think about before making a team selection, but that will be very, very rare from my point of view. Everything we do here is based on trying to build a certain way of playing. So every time we play, people can see, okay, this is us playing. We try to be as competitive as possible. That's why we built this style, and I think everyone can see what we can do when we are at our best. So hopefully we can build that to be even more consistent. And then third, we have to bring some young players into that mix of players that will play the games for us. And that will be, an ongoing process for us, and we have done that the whole season. But when we select the team, we base it on who do we think is suiting the role the best way. Who do we think is performing best in training to be able to play this game? And it doesn't say that Rory is not performing well, because he is, but we also don't know exactly what we will get from him, which is fair enough because he hasn't that much experience in the championship, so we don't know. But that time will come, and it can be soon.
And I guess that's the balance, isn't it? Because with fans, and you speak about young players and sort of a process that's over a period of years, and maybe they want to see some of those guys a little bit earlier, but as you said earlier in the season, you can play a really young team and not get results, so you have to balance the two.
Exactly, and it is a balance, and it's not outside the strategy to play with a player who's 35. That's a part of the strategy, and that player on 35 or 32 can probably be even more powerful to the strategy, because he can support the young players in an even better way. So also the example with the West Brom game the other day is not, it's not out of strategy or another style of play just because you are a little bit more pragmatic for one game. It can actually be a boost to your strategy. Another example could be that we talk about young players and we talk about lowering the age profile of the group. Does it mean that we cannot buy a 28-year-old player this summer? No, 100% not. Because we still need players that can support the young ones, players that can be competitive, players that can perform on a consistent level, to be able to develop this kind of culture and this kind of playing style that we have. So it's never too black and white, and that's the beauty about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Plymouth, then, looking ahead to that one, interesting team. Obviously, they're fighting for their own means, which is always difficult, particularly this time of the season. Yeah. But I mean, you look at them, and they've scored a lot of goals at home this season. Maybe sort of more than people would expect. Conceded a lot as well. So, what sort of challenge are you expecting? Because it certainly looks like it's going to be a difficult one to sort of break down.
Yeah, so that's probably the first challenge. That is to break them down, because they will be defending low in moments. Then they will definitely also go and press us in moments of the game, like they have done in all their home games, and that they will 100% do that. So it's for us to find that balance when they step up, then recognize the space that will open up. When they defend low, then have a lot of collective movements, a lot of combinations going on, so we can break them down and create chances. So it's about finding the right balance in our approach in the game, and again, also having in mind that they can be a threat on the counter. So really being, having a purpose with the passes that we do, and not being caught a little bit out of balance when we risk a pass or do something like that. So it's not an easy game to play, and then especially also the context about it, where they fight for their position in the league. That is especially something you will see when you step into the last 10 games of a season, that now it's really clear who's fighting really to just get to stay in the league, and they are obviously one of the teams, so it will not be an easy game for us.
No, and to go to Watford and get a point is probably reflective of that.
Yeah.
I mean, with them, I sort of heard you speak after Saturday, and you almost say it's maybe not been the better teams in the league. It's been the ones lower in the table who maybe presenting a low block that have been a little bit difficult. You think of Derby and Oxford. So is that the challenge for your team to try and improve in those areas where maybe they fell a little bit short in those two Carrow Road games?
Yeah, I think actually again in that kind of games, it's been more like our defensive output, where Oxford created absolutely nothing against us, and they got a point. And the Derby game was a little bit the same, because you not expect to score 3 goals every time you play, and sometimes you just have to be able to win 1-0, and that's enough, and that's just how it is. I think we have a good idea of who we are when we are at our best, but we cannot expect to play like we did Watford at home, or Hull at home, or Plymouth at home, or Swansea at home, or Stoke at home, or whatever. We cannot expect that every time. So we have to be able to find points when we are not at that on that level, and that sometimes is a 1-0 win. So I'm actually more disappointed about conceding goals in the games like that. So the structure in our offensive game will be important, so we don't allow too many counter-attacks against us, so we not open up space when we lose the ball. That's a big thing stepping into the game on Saturday, because we also looked at it again stats-wise and could see that I think it was 14 games this season where we have had less than 1 expected goals, and only in 3 of them has been against 5 back lines. So sometimes, just to tell the story, sometimes you see something and you think, okay, because we struggled in this game, or because we didn't get a result in this game, it must be because of this. But we also have to look a little bit deeper into it. But I'm not saying we just have it easy against 5 back lines. But we come from a game against Sheffield Wednesday where we did some very, very good offensive stuff, especially in the first half. So we can do it. We've done it many times. It's just finding the right balance.
Final 2 then, this is clearly going to be a very different game, and you know, as you've outlined, a very different approach from your team. Is it easy to go from what you did last weekend to then try and go back, or try to sort of get a lot of the stuff back into the performance whilst retaining some of that defensive stuff? I guess maybe we're going to find out.
Who says we're going back? I think that it's been deliberate, so it's something we prepared the players for on Saturday, and it's also something that we talked about after Saturday. What we're going to do, what we're going to use the experience for, what we're going to learn from it to take into the next block of games. So hopefully they will show that we have learned from it, and that we can be more solid in times, and there will also be those moments on Saturday where we have to be solid, we have to be compact, we have to deal with crosses and set pieces, and we have to do it with quality. And hopefully we have learned from the game Saturday. And then of course, I always appreciate when we are more on the ball than the opponent. That's just my basic idea of football, that I prefer to have the ball instead of the opposite. I also prefer to be the team that tries to dominate the game and create chances instead of the opposite. So yeah, without giving too much away, I think people can expect that we will be trying to go back to, you know, where we've been good, but again taking bits from the Saturday game.
And finally, it would be remiss of us not to mention the fans. It's, I think, the longest away trip of the season. It's a long old way that they're going to be going on Saturday, and us as well. Not that anyone cares about that. But, I mean, for them, that must be an extra motivation for you guys and the squad when you see those guys who are going to give up so much of their day. A lot of it spent on the roads. That must be a big motivation for you, and you must be extremely grateful for that as well.
100%. I was surprised and impressed already in pre-season, where we played the first game away. Where was it? It was Northampton, where there was a lot of fans. I was surprised even in training camp where there was fans, and I've been impressed really with the away performance, because it's, you know, we are more than 1,000, sometimes up to 2,000, sometimes more than that away from home, and it could also be a Friday night in Bristol where there was a great support to the players one more time. So it's impressive, and don't get me wrong, every time we play we try to give them a good experience. That's one of the main reasons why we play, because without them we are absolutely nothing.
Sorry, this definitely is the last one, but I remembered you and the squad and Ben have contributed to the Millwall tickets as well. So I guess that's a sign probably of how appreciative not just you but the whole.
Yeah, and a good idea actually. Also, the players been hugely involved in this, and want to give back in a way where people can feel it and see that we really appreciate them. So I think that's. I don't call it a natural thing to do because I don't know if it happens too many places, but I think it's a great thing to do. And I hope that people appreciate it, and I know that's I can see that there will be a lot of fans, away fans, for particular that game, and end of the day, it helps us, it helps them, it helps everyone. So yeah, it's great.